what is really a movie? What is the bare component, if we could boil it down to it? Well, really, it is a series of shots. No, I'm going to take that back. All right, so we can really boil down cinema to its bare component. And for those of you who don't know, maybe you've never seen a film strip, it literally is a long succession of tape, if you will, that has individual still shots on it. And as those shots run through a projector, there you go. You get the magic of cinema. You actually get to see motion. The reality is that modern cinema, every second there are 24 individual still frames flying past the shutter and being projected up onto a screen. There really is no way to capture true motion, but there is a way to manipulate it so that we think we're watching motion. How does that work? Why don't we just see those individual pictures flash up in front of us? How does that work? Well, there's actually an interesting scientific phenomenon going on. A gentleman in the early 1800s, and if you've taken a look at your book, you'll remember his name. His name was Peter Mark Roget, and in 1824 did some experiments and realized that an image stays on our retina, right in our eye, for 1/20th to 1/5 of a second after it's removed from its frame of vision. So, for example, I've got this stapler here. I'll hold it up in front of the camera, and then all of a sudden I take it away. Well, in your eye, and we all have a little bit different variants here, that image stays for 1/20th to 1/5 of a second in the back of it. Now, you've heard the term photographic memory. The ones that stay on the back of the retina longer, those are the guys, those are the girls that actually have a photographic memory. They're able to keep it in there, and then, of course, their mind works a little bit differently so that it holds that image. But nonetheless, we all have this ability to some degree, and this is what allows motion pictures, or the image or the illusion of moving pictures. So the term cinematography really is, you could define it by this. It is the illusion of continuous motion. It's an illusion, but it does look like continuous motion. Now, like I said, part of that is because of our mind and our eye and how that image is retained there. But then, literally, as that film is going through the projector, there is a shutter that's flashing. It's on again, off again, on again, off again. That obscures the interval of frames. Remember those individual picture frames, and flashes it up on the screen twice. And we're talking about actual film projection here. So every time that still image comes through, it flashes light twice. So that shutter is opening, closing twice for each image, which allows it to stay up on screen, to be burned into our retina, and for it to appear as if there is actually motion. Now, here's a curious thing. I think you'll find this interesting. The reality is, if we were sitting in a theater and could time every time that the light went on, off, on, off, on, off, we would be sitting in the theater 50% of the time in darkness, because it's flashing, it's not flashing, it's flashing, it's not flashing, the light on, light off, and so they're 50% of the time we're actually sitting in darkness. Now, with video projectors and some of the new technologies that exist out there, I'd really like to test that. But according to Mr. Cook and the book here, the reality is that you in a movie theater with a traditional film projector would be sitting in darkness 50% of the time. That's fascinating. And it's true based on the science of how that works. So that's a little small definition that I just wanted to kind of go over of what cinematography is. It's an illusion of continuous motion. And as cinema developed in the late 1800s, there was the idea that we could capture these still images on film and project them in a way that people will be able to watch them and enjoy them. So I put up the first film of Thomas Edison there. And he truly was, he gets credit for creating the first film camera, the Kinetograph. And if you remember in your reading, sorry, my nose just got irritated there. But if you remember in your reading, he actually only wanted to create this because of his phonograph that he had created, I believe, in the 1870s there. 1870s, 1880s. It's very popular. People love to listen to sound. But he thought, well, what if I could attach some images to the sound that the phonograph is creating? So really, he was motivated just to increase more phonograph sales. But the Kinetograph, nonetheless, was a camera that was able to capture images successfully. And he was able to put them in little parlors. In fact, in New York City in 1894, the first Kinetograph let me rephrase that. The first kinetoscope parlor opened up in New York City. Now, what do I mean by kinetoscope? Well, this was the actual mechanism that you could put your eyes up to and crank through the movie and see the motion. Any of you ever been to Disneyland? Probably most of us have. As you're walking down Main Street, there's the Penny Arcade, and they still have a few of these old kinetoscope type machines where you can sit there and watch those images flash by. It's amazing that it's been now 118 years, no, 114 years that people have gone to watch images in a designated place. Now, these weren't necessarily theaters. They were individual machines, and the experience that you had watching these little films that you saw on YouTube were very much individual. Well, here's an interesting thing. As with any great inventions, there's always a group of people in maybe two different areas that are developing at the same time, and a lot of times it's difficult to say, well, who borrowed from what and how did you get this information? But over in France, in Europe, there were two brothers named the Lumiere Brothers, and they, along with Edison, really started to create a very similar camera. Now let me see here. I've got some of the information here for you. Their camera that they created was the Cinematograph. I don't speak French, so I'm sorry I don't have the right accent on it, but a Cinematograph. And it was an interesting invention because it actually was the camera. It was the film printer, because after you shot film, you'd have to develop it and print it out. And it was actually a projector. And this is where the Lumiere Brothers really come in and kind of give cinema a direction that perhaps Edison didn't have. Now, Edison gets credit. He developed the camera. He went out and shot interesting subjects, and people enjoyed watching them. But the next step here is that the Lumiere Brothers actually realized that this could be a very social sort of event. So they developed really kind of the first movie theaters because their camera could project the image up onto a wall or a screen, and people could gather around and watch this together and enjoy these little short films, these little slices of life. And like I said, these gentlemen were in France. Now, they also established, kind of helped solidify the idea that there would be 16 frames per second of film. Now, like I said, today in modern cinema, it's at 24 frames per second. But they kind of set the standard for the silent film era, that at 16 frames per second, you're going to get the most natural, fluid motion. And it really didn't need to be adjusted until the sound era in the mid-20s, and that's why they went to the 24 frames per second. So they did help establish that. So